Hey, I'm back. I've been talking about being a Christ husband, and particularly, I've been talking about lessons from a resurrected husband. And so, I want to share with you a moment that I posted this particular post recently. And here's what it says: I had to learn that my death increases her opportunity for submission to the mission. Man, that's a hard thing to learn. Whew. So, as I was learning to become a better husband, I had to learn to start unpacking all of the societal expectations and limitations that are placed on being a man first and being a husband second. And so, when I did that, I didn't know, okay, well, where's my model? Of course, we can go to Ephesians 5:25 that says, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. But in today's society, where we have a tendency to believe that the Bible changes as society changes, I had to go back and unlearn some stuff and redo the work of what exactly does being a husband like Christ look like. And listen, I didn't like it because, in fact, at the time that God started to reveal to me what it takes, I was a little upset. I was like, God, you keep asking of me, and I feel like she's not pouring out or doing anything. Why do you keep asking of me? God's answer was really, really simple for me. And that's where I get the term Christ husband. He says, are you going to be a husband like Christ or not? I mean, you're a difficult bride. Okay, that's hidden below the belt, God. But are you going to be a husband like Christ or not? Yeah, God, I guess I'll be a husband like Christ. Good. Then get to dying. What? Get to dying? Yeah. Husbands have to be the first to die. Husbands have to be the first to die. And that moment with God is what began to transform my thinking. And I am not saying it is easy, but husbands have to be the first to die. That's the reality. That's the truth. And here's the other thing in that conversation over the days following that. And he says, I want to give you a little caveat to that, son, because you're making a sacrifice. And I'll explain to you the definition of sacrifice that God gave me in just a moment. And I want you to understand that in making the sacrifice, when you look at the hand that is holding the hammer and holding the nails as you lay on this cross of marriage, those hands are going to look a lot like hers. Those hands are going to look a lot like your wife. She is going to be the one potentially nailing you to the cross in her unhealed, in her brokenness, in her ignorance. She is nailing you to the cross, and you have to not say a mumbling word. You have to turn to me. Say, man, that's a sacrifice, God. Sure hope it's worth it. He said, oh, son, come over here and let me tell you a little something about sacrifice. Genuine sacrifice is not knowing if it's going to be honored or not. Jesus came and died on the cross with no guarantee that the work of his sacrifice would be accepted. Jesus even struggled to get on the cross because he said, my Lord, while he's on the cross, why hast thou forsaken me? But even before that in the garden, he says, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. But nevertheless, and that's where as husbands, we often have to live. We have to live in the area between nevertheless and why have you forsaken me? But here's the good news, brothers. When we sacrifice in that manner, and if our wife acknowledges, notice that if, that's what makes it so hard. Regardless of if she accepts it or not, God's going to resurrect me into the man that he needs me to be, regardless. But if she accepts it, God has a requirement of her too. She is to be the first, the very first, to spread the good news about the transformation that God has done in you as a husband. You won't have to strut and say, look at me as a husband, look at the sacrifice I made, because your wife, when she accepts the sacrifice, will be the first to sing the praises. Still no fun, but it's the reality of being a Christ husband. Listen, that's all I have for you today. Till next video, God bless.